So the Supreme Court has been making a lot of news lately with all of their recent decisions, and some of them have been more controversial than others. One case that was not so controversial was the ruling about gun rights and domestic violence accusers or abusers. Basically, the court ruled that if you are accused of domestic violence or a court finds you a restraining order or something like that, I think it was a domestic violence restraining order was the term they kept using. If a court finds one against you, your guns can be taken away. And a lot of people applauded this, I think, on an emotional basis, just because they thought like, oh, well, if you're accused of domestic violence or if you're a domestic abuser, then of course your gun should be taken away. We don't want to put, women in danger. But what was missed in that, and what Clarence Thomas he was the sole dissenter in that case. And what he pointed out is that there's a lot of lack of due process here. And a lot of times, not so unoften, let's say, these things will come up in divorce proceedings, and, one spouse will claim that the other one abused them, and oftentimes the judge will just approve it and will just say, okay, like, you guys are going through a nasty divorce, I understand, we'll go ahead and approve this restraining order, even if there's no evidence of domestic abuse, even if there's no, real, evidence, there's no real evidence of it, and Clarence Thomas would point out that this is a lack of due process. We're taking away somebody's constitutional rights. We have to come up with, there has to be due process. There has to be something there. And I thought that he made a pretty cogent argument. And it was disappointing to me to see that so many of the Supreme Court justices that I would expect to be on the correct side of this were in fact on the wrong side. And I was further not surprised, but disappointed that there was not a lot of other pushback against that. I think that Clarence Thomas was right on that issue, and I think he's been right on most of the issues that have come before the Supreme Court, especially recently. And so he's quickly become my favorite Supreme Court justice. Nobody's perfect, and I'm sure you'll be able to point something out in the comments that he did wrong that I would probably agree with you on. But he's definitely the best one we've got right now, in my opinion. So that being said, he's pissing off a lot of people. And one of those people is AOC. And if AOC doesn't like you, then I probably do. That's a good measuring stick. So this video we have for you today, AOC files impeachment articles against Supreme Court Thomas and Alito. So she's not only going after Thomas, but Alito as well. Let's watch.
Two new moves that dramatically escalate congressional Democrats' fight over the independence of the nation's highest court. Just minutes ago, we got breaking news that Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has officially filed articles of impeachment against Justices Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas. That comes just after Senators Sheldon Whitehouse and Ron Wyden made a formal request to DOJ. They want a special counsel appointed to criminally investigate Supreme Court Justice Thomas for accepting travel and the loan of a luxury car from wealthy donor friends.
Wow. Okay. So I saw a report about this before. I didn't get through the whole report or read the whole article or anything like that, but I did see that they were going after Clarence Thomas, accusing him of basically taking bribes or gifts off the books and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, nobody's 100% perfect, and if this is the case, then okay, so be it. So hold him accountable. I just think it's very convenient how these things are coming up now after so many controversial decisions were made, particularly the Trump immunity case and all that. People are not happy with Clarence Thomas, and maybe he went out on a limb with the domestic violence case that I was referencing, but I just find it very convenient that it's happening right now. And the fact that this is done under the Joe Biden DOJ and the name at the top of that sheet is Merrick Garland. These are, it's all very suspect. Let's say that.
NBC's Ryan Noble still with us on Capitol Hill. MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin is here with me. Okay, Ryan, what do we know about these impeachment articles? I know this story just broke. What happens next?
So this comes from, as you rightly point out, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York City, and she's filed 2 articles of impeachment against Justice Samuel Alito and Justice Clarence Thomas. And these articles of impeachment are not based in any of the decisions that either of these 2 justices have made, but instead specifically about their conduct around the office. For instance, in both Thomas and Alito's case, she is accusing them of not properly disclosing financial benefits and gifts that they were given by donors and others, and in some cases people that had business before the court or even had a vested interest, a political interest in some of the issues before the court. And she's also doing that in the case of Clarence Thomas, saying that he refused to recuse himself from certain cases that his spouse had a vested interest in as well. His wife, Ginny Thomas, of course, was very much involved in the Stop the Steal effort, the efforts to overturn the 2020 election and things along those lines. Also, she is accusing Justice Alito as well of refusing to recuse himself from certain cases of which he may have a conflict of interest. So these are very specific accusations that Ocasio-Cortez is leveling against these 2 Supreme Court justices. It comes at a time where Democrats are getting increasingly frustrated about the direction of the court. Obviously,
yeah, that's what I was saying before. I just want to say before he gets too deep into another subject that, again, if he's stealing money or if he's taking bribes or, doing this for self-enrichment, then hold him accountable, hold his feet to the fire, impeach him by all means. I don't care how good he is. You shouldn't be doing that. That said, do everybody else now. Like, go look at every member of Congress, look at their salaries, and look at how much they actually make. Look at their net worth, that is. Look at all the other stuff that comes along with that. You can't tell me that there's nothing suspicious about that. And again, I just find it all to be very convenient. If it's true, I want him held accountable. But I also want everybody else held accountable. And I think after 34 years of service, because that's how long Thomas has been on there, since 1990. I think after 34 years of service, it's just all very convenient. And the people involved in this as well, Merrick Garland being the head of the DOJ, the Biden administration, the Supreme Court stuff, not Supreme Court stuff, but the Trump immunity stuff, all of that kind of comes into play. It smells funny. It smells funny.
That Ocasio-Cortez is leveling against these 2 Supreme Court justices. It comes at a time where Democrats are getting increasingly frustrated about the direction of the court. Obviously, the decisions that this court has rendered over the past couple of months, but also the conduct of these Supreme Court justices and the lack of oversight that they apparently seem to have without any kind of specific code of ethics that they must follow. Now, in terms of whether or not this impeachment will ever become a reality, Chris, that seems very unlikely. Republicans, of course, still control the House of Representatives. There is a very slim to almost no chance that the actual articles of impeachment ever even come up for a vote. Ocasio-Cortez does have the ability to offer what's called a privilege resolution, which would mean it would force a vote, but the Republicans could immediately just vote to table or move to table the resolution, and that would bring it to an end. But even if for some reason they got through the House of Representatives, let's say the election goes in the direction of the Democrats in the fall and she brings these up next year, it would require, just like it would in a presidential situation, a 2/3 conviction in the United States Senate in order to remove either of them from their post as a Supreme Court justice. So it is a long shot in any way, shape, or form. This is very much a public relations effort by Ocasio-Cortez to voice the frustrations that Democrats have about the direction of the court and these 2 justices in particular, and perhaps have that be something that are in the back of the minds of voters as they head to the polls in November.
Does that count as election interference? No, more seriously though, this does raise an interesting point about how some senators do things that they know are not going to be successful, that they know are not going to have any real significance, but they do them as a show, as a way to show, hey, I'm above it all. hey, I'm really looking out for you. Hey, I've got your best interests at heart. All these kinds of things. The one criticism that I used to hear about Ron Paul was that he used to speak out against all these government spendings and stuff and go on the floor and just complain about it. But then when it came time to, in the back rooms when they're talking about kickback for your communities and things like that, Ron Paul always made sure that his community was taken care of, even if he himself was against the bill. That was one criticism I used to hear about Ron Paul, and I think it kind of applies here a little bit. So another thing that I used to hear about AOC and Bernie Sanders more specifically is that, other Democrats in the party, they know that Bernie Sanders is going to push for more progressive things and more progressive ideals, but he knows that he's not going to be successful as well. And Democrats largely know that he's not going to be successful because the progressive wing of the party, no matter what TYT or anybody else will tell you, has not really been a significant force. They may have forced the Overton window, but as far as getting their specific policies passed and all those sorts of things, they haven't been a truly effective group in that way. But Bernie Sanders is allowed to go out and, make his speeches and criticize Democrats and all that stuff. And the reason he's allowed to do that is because at the end of the day, he's a team player. At the end of the day, he's going to endorse Joe Biden. At the end of the day, he's not going to throw his own people under the bus in favor of a Republican. And surprisingly, AOC has kind of shown herself to be that sort of politician, the one who works in the gamesmanship of it all, really does the politicking. She will come out with things like this, things like the Green New Deal, which she knows has absolutely zero chance of passing. But she will do it because it's a way for her to fundraise. It's a way for her to get her name out there. It's a way for her to maintain relevancy, I suppose, in the hopes that one day she can be more effective in getting the things that she wants passed. I mean, you saw recently she came out and said that she was in favor of Joe Biden. And people like Cenk Uygur criticized her and said, that's not why we sent you there. We didn't send you there to kiss ass. We sent you there to fight back. And you're not fighting for us. You're not standing up for us. And we're the ones that helped get you where you are. All very true. All very good criticisms. I'm interested to follow this and see what ends up happening with it. But like that last guy was just saying, the chances of this actually happening are slim to none. Now, again, the corruption stuff, if he's taking money on the side or he's, changing his decisions on cases to benefit himself or his family, that's obviously something that you want looked into. I think you should do it to all the Supreme Court justices, but I also think you need to do it to members of Congress as well. And, maybe that's a reason why it won't get passed as well. Because Pelosi and Schumer might come over and say, hey, motherfucker, Lindsey Graham and what's that other guy's name? I can't remember right now. All the Republicans, those sides too, they'll come over and say, what are you doing? You're going to blow up this whole thing. We got a nice thing going. And you come around with this crap? Anyway, point is, I don't think it's going anywhere. I'm interested to see. I do think it's very convenient of the decisions that Clarence Thomas has written that I've read. I haven't found much that I disagree with, so it's hard to see how those things may have been influenced, but I'm open to hearing the evidence. And again, if he's guilty, he's guilty. I think it's all very sus.